This week on the Orange Box Podcast, we talk about another delay for Grand Theft Auto 6, today's PlayStation State of Play, a cross-buy button found on the PlayStation Store, and more. All of this tonight, but first, on to the new Beautiful Bean intro. Welcome to the place where PC and console gaming talk combine. This is the Orange Box Podcast, episode 110. I am your host, the man who has the eyes of a bat and the ears of a teenager whose parents just told him to do something, Nathan, also known as the Frozen Gamer 87. And joining me, as always, the man who will be playing Rosalina in the Disney Plus exclusive adaptation of Super Mario Galaxy, Justin, better known as I'm Zaracon. How you doing today? How's your week been?
It's been okay. So Saturday was busy just because there was a lot of stuff to take care of. Some things had happened, which partially were things that I was aware of, things, that had to be resolved, but things sort of got worse, and so I was working on trying to get all that taken care of. And I mean, so I've gotten some steps toward getting that somewhat straightened out, but there's just gonna be a whole lot more work that needs to go into that. So I'll be on and off with that. Sunday was a pretty busy day for a different reason. That was mainly just because I was recording a bunch of stuff, and then also finally trying to finalize the Expedition 33 review, which I haven't finished yet, but I'm pretty close to finishing that up. So I'm at least glad to finally be able to see the finish line at this point. And Monday, so I think this was back in September, I mentioned about taking over temporarily for something that someone at my job just for while she was on vacation. But I was asked if I would like to take over that position permanently moving forward. And I said, sure, that, I would be willing to do that. So because there are a lot of gears that are currently in motion with people working in that sort of area right now, I probably won't start for another 2 weeks or so, but that'll be a new responsibility that I have to work on moving forward. So that'll be cool. That'll be different. And the good news is I believe I should have a lot of stuff ready for me earlier, so I don't have to necessarily rush every Monday. And so I could even possibly get a lot of it done, like maybe Friday before Monday comes around, so that way it's a whole lot easier when I come into to work and stuff. So that's good, at least. But yeah, that's pretty much the main stuff that's happened with me this week.
All right. Well, congratulations on the promotion. Hopefully it comes with a good pay raise.
well, it's not a full promotion, but this is something that could actually potentially lead to one, though. I will say this, because everyone who has worked in this or was responsible for handling this, they eventually did get promoted, so this definitely could lead to that.
Okay. Well, either way, steps in the right direction, so that's the main thing.
True.
Cool. All right, well, my week, it's been kind of mixed. Definitely had some more, tiring, stressed out moments. Nothing, major. It's just kind of general of feeling kind of burnt out. Just a lot going on and not enough time to do everything I want to do. And so it's just been kind of all over the place from that standpoint. Saturday, I went to the church because we were recording some videos about the core principles of the church, and just some short videos that'll go up on Facebook and Instagram and whatever else, just kind of basic things to essentially advertise the church and help people who are looking for that type of church to be able to find it. And so we got those recorded in the morning, and then shortly after I got home, I got to editing them, and everything looked good. But then I find out on Monday that the lip sync is off. And the problem is that it's off by such a tiny amount that initially I couldn't even tell that it was off. And so we're kind of going back and forth, and I'm like trying to figure this out on Monday, and I'm stressed out about work at the same time, and I'm exhausted, and so it's just like one thing on top of another. And I think I got one of them fixed, but the problem is like I thought that I had moved. I mean, the way I had all the clips lined up is that they were all side by side. So if I moved the audio forward, however much it needed to be, then it would be the same for all of them. It would move forward that 0.03 seconds or something like that, like a 300th of a second, because that's about how much it was off. And the problem is that I think that I may have accidentally, when I finally got it right, selected just the first clip, and so I'm not sure about the other ones. And just like I just was spending a bunch of time looking at it, and I just felt like I had the eyes of a bat, like I was saying. And because I just wasn't seeing, the difference. Like I thought it was fine initially. I thought it still looked fine. It was maybe a little bit better, but I just couldn't quite see it because it was off by just so little that it was really hard to tell. And it's one thing when I'm editing the podcast and I have like long segments here. I have a lot to work with, so it's easier to tell when it's off and be like, okay, yeah, because at some point it gets more and more off. And in this case, it was just hard to tell because they're short videos. And so I haven't gotten them completely done yet as far as fixing the final versions. So after a while, I just finally said, okay, I need someone to come and help me. Someone to come look at the video while we're editing it and make sure that it's on point, because I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing it well enough because it's just so barely off. And it's a lot easier to tell when it's a longer video and there's more to work with. Plus, the thing is that the videos, the speaker, who's pastor, my brother-in-law, he enunciates words longer than some people do. And it's not like he's over enunciating, but just the way that he speaks is different than like you or I, where we say things a bit more succinctly, I guess you could say. And believe me, I'm not like throwing shade or anything, just saying that that makes it a little bit harder to tell exactly where it's off. And it's possible it's also just my eyes too, that's just one thing I'm not quite detecting. So yeah, I just haven't gotten much done with that. But I'll come back to it. Otherwise, I don't think there was much else I did. I honestly don't even remember. It's kind of been a blur. Just across the board, like back and forth with work and everything else. And so, yeah. The plus side is I've been able to assign some of my tasks, or at least portions of my tasks, to other people in my department. And so that at least should help take a little bit of load off. I mean, mostly it's just like initial steps that just, while on their own they don't take that much time, when it's combined with all the other responsibilities I have in addition to the new stuff I'm taking on, it just makes it a lot easier if someone handles those couple of initial steps. It saves me some time, and then I can focus on the other stuff that I have to get done, that a lot of times is more time consuming and takes a lot more thought than the smaller tasks do. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's been anything else. I feel like there's something I'm forgetting, and I honestly don't know what. We have our Thanksgiving lunch thing at work tomorrow. So, I mean, I normally go in the office on Wednesday anyway, so we'll be doing that. That'll be fun. And of course, I don't have to worry about bringing anything, so that's also nice. We had our family group. We did a Friendsgiving thing for our last family group for the year on Sunday, and so I made some homemade green bean casserole with scratch-made cream of mushroom soup. And that was really good, and some cornbread stuffing, which, despite the cornbread mix not being as good, still came out excellent. I was able to figure out things well enough to get it all well balanced. And, yeah. I still feel like I'm forgetting something, but clearly it's not all that important if I can't remember it. So, that has been my week in a nutshell.
Okay. I definitely hope that you'll be able to get some rest over this weekend. Because are you still going to be working on the videos like over the week, or
I haven't. Oh, well, those videos probably either tomorrow or Thursday. I'll have one of the other guys come over and he'll help me take a look at it. And I mean, it won't take long once we get it. It's just I need a second set of eyes, someone who can detect it better than I can, because I don't want to be doing this over and over, being like, okay, I think it's good to go, and then I suddenly said no, it's still off, and it's like, And I think what made it the worst about all of that was that it's technically been like that for all the recordings we've done over the past year plus. And I mean, it's mostly been recording sermons and live stream and everything. And when you're watching like the video for the singing and everything, you can't tell because it's zoomed out. But for the sermon, it's like apparently nobody's noticed it before. And when I told them that it's exactly the same as it's always been, they went back and looked at the sermons. It's like, oh, the sermons are off too. And it's like,
oh no.
I mean, we're not going to go back and fix the sermons, but I think that there is just like a slight delay between the audio and the video signal, because we have the video coming through cameras and then we have the audio coming through the soundboard. And so it's just enough of a delay to where it does cause that slight out of sync aspect to the audio. And it should theoretically be an easy fix, but I don't know enough. I mean, I've just never tried doing anything with that. And the main thing is we got to figure out exactly what that difference is, and then have someone like up front so we can test it and make sure that we have everything synced up before we start doing the streaming and the recording and everything. So, yeah. All right. Well, what have you been playing this week?
So, I haven't done too much, but I did jump back and forth between a few things. So, I went back to Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow for the Julius mode, and I made some progress, but I got stuck on this one boss. I think his name is Aguni or something like that. But the boss, I haven't had an issue with him in the past, but granted, that was only when I was playing the base game. And of course, when you're playing Julius mode, you lose a lot of stuff that you would normally have, like items and being able to switch between different souls and stuff like that. So it's been a challenge just because I can't heal at all. Apart from, like I said, I've said in the past with Yoko's attack that heals you, but it's so minimal that it barely does anything, and like one hit essentially counts towards like 5 hits you would deal to heal yourself. So it's definitely tough. And so I don't know how many times I had to replay that fight just before I got it done, and I was so close to rage quitting, but then I said no. I feel like as soon as I stop, especially if I stop recording, that's gonna be when I actually beat him. So I went and played some more, and I was able to beat him. I don't know if this was like the 9th or 10th try, but I beat him eventually, and that was all that I needed to do. So I got that done. I made a little bit more progress, and I unfortunately, again, as I've mentioned when I first started Julius mode, because there's so much freedom that you have with traversing the map, you can sort of do things out of order. So I'm not entirely certain if I'm still going in the right direction as far as making progress. I mean, I am right now at another boss, like Paranoia, and it's gonna take me a few tries just because he's not difficult, but the second phase, it's really hard to dodge some of his attacks and stuff. And I mean, I feel like I would have to switch between the characters very quickly just to make sure if I go to Alucard, turn to a bat, then I can pretty much guarantee that I'll be safe. But I also have to make sure I have enough magic in order to like keep that going. But yeah, that's pretty. I think after that, I should be able to start getting ready to go toward the final-ish area, I think, but I'm not entirely certain right now on what the sort of parameters for that are in this mode, at least. I know that in the base game you have to, reach a certain point and then you'll be able to keep going forward, but I don't know how it goes with, or at least don't remember how it went with this one. But yeah, that's what I've been doing there. And then there was a game that I had heard about called Unbeatable. This is a game that is coming out next month. I was curious about it just because it's a rhythm game, but it's slightly different with how it, or at least the way it looks, is just very different to me than most rhythm games. So I said, I'm going to give this demo a try. And also the art style really reminded me of Studio Trigger, and so I was like, okay, I'm kind of interested in this. Studio Trigger has a good art style, so if they're trying to replicate their style, I'm down with that. So I gave that a shot. It's the rhythm section is definitely it's simple, but there are some prompts that you definitely won't get the first time around, and that has been kind of iffy because I know that when I got further into the demo, there was one fight where I was doing okay at first, but then I did not get like what I was supposed to be doing, and so I was defeated, and I thought I was going to have to just restart over again, but I'm not sure if that was a scripted battle you're supposed to lose, or if it doesn't matter if you win or lose. I mean, I wanted to personally give it another shot because I wanted just to like get it right, but it didn't really give me the option. Now, the one thing I will say is that the game feels very story heavy, where it's like you have, I guess, sort of the tutorial at when you start the game, but then it's probably about another 20 minutes or so before you get into your next fight. And that one really was just, I don't even really count that as a fight anyway, just because it was probably only about 30-45 seconds long of a music track. So I mean, it's not like I was doing too much there, so I didn't really have too much time to get into and fully comprehend the mechanics, which is a bit of a shame. And I mean, sure, this is probably a more it's definitely a more story driven game than something like Dance Dance Revolution or Guitar Hero, something like that, but I still would have liked to have more sort of gameplay moments there. Now, I did drop it just because I was like, all right, I'm not feeling satisfied with how little, music battles there are. But then later on, I went back and said, you know what? I see there's actually an arcade mode, and I'll go ahead and give it a shot just because I was like, all right, this should be more like what I want. And thankfully it is something where, you can go through the different tracks and play them at different difficulty settings, which is cool. So I, did a couple things, and I progressively bumped up the difficulty until I was like, all right, this is probably a little too extreme for me right now. And yeah, so one thing I will say also is the game runs at 800p 90 FPS on the Steam Deck. Nice. No issues whatsoever, and also running at ultra. I disabled like post-processing effects and stuff like that, but yeah, it's running 90 frames per second. For some strange reason, though, when I played it on my PC, it was detecting my monitor, but it was only outputting at 60 hertz, which is weird because it gets up to 165. So why it's not taking full advantage of that is questionable, even though it also had the frame rate uncapped, so it's not like that would, I don't know what was going on there, but at least on the Steam Deck you can take full advantage of the 90 hertz refresh rate there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not entirely certain how I feel about the game right now. I might play it some more, decide if I want to get back into it, and even decide if I want to potentially get it not when it launches, but sometime down the road. But I'm just undecided right now, just because of how limited the music combat sections are for the base game. And then lastly, I played some more Dementium the Ward, and I feel like I've definitely hit a brick wall here. So I've made some more progress, just exploring the hospital and stuff, and getting further into there. And I've gotten to the first boss fights, and this is where, and also I should also add that I found a shotgun and I unlocked it, and I've got that. I've got, I think so far, just like the nightstick, I've got a pistol, and then the shotgun, which I just unlocked. And while the shotgun's good, the problem I'm experiencing right now is the fact that the character is just way too slow for this fight, because you can shoot the boss and it'll stun him for probably about 3 seconds or so, but then he'll just gun right straight toward you. And I also realized there's no sprint button, so you essentially have to perfectly time, or at least from what I can tell, you have to perfectly time when you shoot him, so that way there is a delay from when he'll actually try to start racing towards you again. And of course, after you unload some shots, you do have to reload your shotgun, and that takes time.
Yeah.
So it's been difficult, just because after I can probably shoot him 4-5 times, but then he keeps hitting me and he deals so much damage that I always end up dying after those 5 shots, just because I can't seem to get the timing down. Additionally, there are these sort of slug creatures that after the second shot you deal, they start appearing. So not only do you have to deal with this guy, you also have to deal with at least 2 of the slug things that are coming after you, that are just always gunning towards you, and they're a whole lot faster than he is as well. So I mean, I could try swapping to my pistol, shoot them, and then swap back to my shotgun and continue fighting him. But it's just, I don't know. It's just there's probably got to be some sort of rhythm to this. I just don't know what it is. But I feel like also one of the biggest problems I'm having is that you can't heal yourself outside of finding pills scattered around. And unfortunately, you can only heal yourself if you go up to the pills that you find. You can't take them with you like you would on, say, Resident Evil, grab your herbs, bring them with you, and then use them whenever you want to. No, you have to be right where you find the pills if you want to heal yourself. Otherwise, no dice. So I found plenty of pills lying around that I could use. I mean, I don't need them, so I can't use them. But because you can't take any with you, it's just, you can't heal yourself. So trying to beat this guy with on full health, without any type of assistance, it's just annoying right now. So I'm gonna try to see about going back, and I might even eventually, after enough times, if I feel frustrated enough, I might look at some sort of a walkthrough or something, just to figure out what am I doing wrong, because this I don't get it at all. But yeah, that's essentially where I am with that game so far. And so far, actually after facing him, that has been the first death that I've encountered so far. So the game's not necessarily hard, but the boss fight is just ruthless. But yeah, that's all that I have for that game, and that is it that I have for games in general.
All right. Well, for question about the boss fight, I'm guessing you can't leave the room once you start the fight.
I haven't considered it, but I would imagine. But I mean, I could definitely try and see if that would be possible. Only thing though is I don't know if his health would just regenerate if you leave.
Yeah,
but I'll definitely try that though.
I'm just curious because like I was, watching your footage and seeing that there was a bunch of the pills back in previous room before you faced the boss, and wondering. I mean, it's highly unlikely because usually there's like some type of mystical force field that prevents you from leaving the arena, but yeah. All right. And speaking of Dementium, though, I did check, and Dementium Remastered is available to download on the 3DS. So I downloaded it. I haven't had a chance to check it out, but I did at least download it, and I'd probably try playing it there because, I mean, I'm sure that it's going to run very well, and furthermore, it would help me to decide whether or not it's something that I would enjoy enough to actually like purchase and play versus not. Plus, I like the 3D effect. That's fun. So, but yeah. And then with Unbeatable, so I wish I could enjoy rhythm games. The problem is it's not a problem with rhythm for me. The problem for me is that I have terrible reaction timing, and it's like. Keeping the beat, that's not a problem. I mean, I play guitar, it's primarily a rhythm instrument, but the problem is always just reacting and pressing the correct button. And it's not, I mean, with the guitar, it's like, okay, I have the muscle memory because I've been playing for over 20 years. But with pressing buttons, it's like I have to see the button on the screen and then it registers in my brain that I need to press that button. And sometimes I can do that well, and then other times, especially like when it gets more intense, I like freeze for a second and then I screw up. So that's the reason I never play rhythm games. Even though I do love the art style of this. I think that's very cool. Looks very neat. And of course, a lot of these games have great music too. So. But yeah, I'm curious to see what will happen whenever I get around to trying out, gosh, what's the name of that game? Hi-Fi Rush. Because I know that one, you don't add, it's not like a rhythm game to the same extent, even though the rhythm does help you to like do more damage and stuff, I believe. But yeah, I'll be curious about that one whenever I get around to checking it out. All right, so before I talk about the specific games I've been playing, I do just want to point out a couple of acquisitions I got. So, first of all, because I just wanted the physical version, I grabbed Another Crab's Treasure on the Switch. And it turns out it's actually the Day 1 edition. So it came with a digital download of the original soundtrack, which is fantastic. It also came with like a cool poster in it. See if I can pull that out and show it off real quick. But like I didn't know that it came with that stuff. I just wanted the physical version, and it wasn't terribly expensive, so I thought it was worth going for. But there's the poster that came with it.
Oh,
so
nice.
I like it. But anyway, so the
is that double-sided?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just one-sided, but still pretty cool poster. So I did play a little bit on the Switch, and I don't have any footage recorded, mostly just because I forgot to record any footage. I will say with that one that the, not surprisingly, 30 frames per second. I don't know if it drops. It seems like it might have some drops here and there. I could be wrong on that. The really weird thing was when I initially started it up, it was like super blurry. like it was extremely pixelated, and then after like 10 to 20 seconds, it just clears up and then it's fine the rest of the time. And I played long enough to get past the first two bosses, and into I was going into the area where you get your umami powers, and then there will be a boss in there, but I haven't gotten all the way there yet, so I'm at least on the way. But I'm not sure how much I'm really going to play it on Switch. It was just kind of like, I want to test it out, and considering the fact that I finished the game on PC, I'll get to talking about that here shortly. It was just kind of like, I kind of feel like checking it out. But anyway, so the other physical game I got was the Castlevania Dominus Collection. Because, as expected, Limited Run had a second run of certain games, and just like what they did with the Advanced Collection, they actually had this one, like I expected they would. I mean, they didn't have like the Collector's Edition. I wasn't entirely sure if I would want to get the Collector's Edition, even though I have it for the Advanced Collection. Mostly, I just wanted to have a physical copy, especially because I already had the special spine pre-printed ahead of getting it, knowing that I would eventually get it, and so it's nice to have that. The one problem with this is that of course, I already played a decent chunk of Dawn of Sorrow on the Steam Deck, and so it's trying to decide: do I want to keep playing Dawn of Sorrow on the Steam Deck and then switch over to the Switch version for the other two games, or do I want to just start over on Dawn of Sorrow, play all of them on the Switch like I did with the Advanced Collection? And I honestly don't know. I haven't decided yet. I've been kind of going back and forth on when I want to jump back into Castlevania, just because those Medusa heads and the clock tower, I hate them so much. I just dread dealing with that. And I'm sure that once I get back into it, it'll be like, okay, I'm glad that I, went back into it and continued on, but those are always so obnoxious to deal with. But the big game that, of course, I spent more time than anything else playing this week and finished was another Crab's Treasure. I played mostly on Steam Deck, actually, and all the footage that's playing right now, there's 6 of the bosses that I faced. I think there's a total of 8, maybe 9 bosses. Yeah, I think there's like 9 bosses that I faced between this week and last week. Or rather, let me think here. I think that there was maybe 2 bosses that I had faced before we recorded last week, but the footage didn't record properly. It froze in the middle of recording. So I wasn't able to preserve that. But then I faced another, I think it was 7 total bosses. And then I also did one of the challenge boss rushes that was just, it was just like the first 3 bosses all back to back. Which was extremely easy. There's actually quite a few boss rushes that you can access once you find a certain area. I've only tried doing the first one because some of them are just a little intimidating. I'm like, am I going to be able to manage that? I may go back and try it at some point, but I haven't decided. But yeah, so I tried my best to not have any spoiler bosses here. I mean, there's like two of the bosses here. Well, I should back up. So last week I had said that I was like right at the final boss, and I was wrong about that. Turns out that it was like basically a transition boss. Like you think, oh, he's the final boss, and then you face him and you finish him, and then you find a new area that has more bosses. And so altogether, I believe that there was about 7 more bosses that I had to face. And so I didn't include the footage for the last 2 bosses because even though it's not like a story-heavy game, they're still kind of spoilery. So yeah, there's footage from all those. One thing I will say, so remember the guy I had talked about that like I was having a whole bunch of trouble with early on, and I only had to knock off 25% of his health in order to for him to run away. So I had heard that when you face him for real, that he's a lot harder. But I beat him my first try. I didn't have any trouble with him at all. I think it's because, for one, I was a lot stronger. Two, I had a shell that had the ability that would revive me if I died, which I didn't end up dying at all. And then also just, I had enough techniques and everything else to where I didn't feel like he was really difficult at all. So that was pretty neat to have that happen. Really, like the last 3 bosses were probably the hardest of the game. But there's, I'm trying to think. I'll just say that there's multi phases for all 3 of the last bosses. And, the last one was definitely the most difficult. It was like quite a difficulty spike. Still nowhere near as hard as anything out of Dark Souls. I did not struggle with that nearly as much as I have with Dark Souls bosses. And I think it also just helps that I'm so familiar with the difficulty level of those types of games to where, like, I wasn't stressed about it at all. And I actually almost got through the final boss on my first try and then again on my second try. And then after that, I had, like, several failures, just one reason or another. Sometimes it was early, sometimes it was a little bit later. And then I went back and I finally beat him without too much trouble. So, but yeah. And I did go into New Game Plus, which I don't have any footage recorded because unfortunately I thought I recorded some of the bosses that you face in New Game Plus, but apparently I didn't. All I will say is that there's an enemy that you face at the very beginning of the game originally. And when you face him in the original game, he's a pushover. No problem whatsoever. But when you face him in New Game Plus, as you start talking, he's like, wait, I feel like we've done this before. And then he basically like goes into his final form and he's like way, way, way ridiculously strong. And I mean, he was beatable, of course, and I ultimately beat him, but I think it took me 2 or 3 tries. It was pretty funny. I mean, I knew that it was coming because my buddy had told me that was the case. But yeah, and then I faced, like, I want to say 3, 4 bosses? 4 or 5 other bosses, I can't remember. I wasn't planning to play super far into New Game Plus. I basically just wanted to play long enough to get all the achievements, which I did. And there's so I found out something that I don't think people should do it normally, but it was pretty fun to do. The guy, Pagurus the Ravenous, he's the one I talked about that has the fork on the knife on his claws and tries to eat you and everything. I found out that there's actually a really kind of funny cheese that you can do on him. And it's the way the game is designed, like intentionally, that this is an option. It's just not, you wouldn't necessarily be able to do it the initial playthrough unless you have a specific shell. So if you have a banana peel on your back for your shell, which the banana peel is just one that you can eat it and then it will restore your health. If you have that on your back, then when he does his fork swipe, he'll grab the banana peel and then he'll eat it, and it knocks off like 3/4 of his health because he's allergic to bananas. So so in New Game Plus, I went in, I had one on my back and then another one on my fork, using it like a hammer. And so then he eats the banana peel, knocks off 3/4 of his health. I switched the banana peel back to the one off my fork back to my back. And then when he grabs that, he eats it and destroys the rest of his health. And there is also a way to actually get him to jump off the edge of the map, which is something that the game actually hints at. Like there's an NPC that you come across and he said, wouldn't it be funny if he just like jumped off the edge of the map? And that is an option. I didn't try that, of course, and I wouldn't have been able to do both in the same playthrough anyway without having like a save and then coming back to it. I should have just for fun, but like I know I could have beaten him normally because I already had. But yeah, it was really funny watching him eat banana peels and die. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, as an overall game, like I loved it. I would say I think I agree with my other friend that it's not a great Souls game in terms of like you don't have a lot of build variety because you can do some with like what type of shell you use, how you distribute your stats, but you basically only get two different weapon types because you have your fork and then you have if you make your fork into a hammer by attaching a shell to it. But as a game, as a game in general, like I love the game so very much because it has so much personality to it, and just like there's all sorts of really funny jokes and humor. I'm trying to remember. There was, gosh, what was the other? There was another one of those sandwiches that I saw because remember before we saw the one that was like mozzarella and grape jelly was one, and then there was I can't remember what the other one was we saw. Oh, it was like a mayonnaise sandwich or something like that. I mean, it was something ridiculous like that. But then there was some other one I came across that was really funny like that. And yeah, it's just, oh man, there's such great humor in this, and it's just a very memorable game, and I really, really love it. And the funny thing is, after my kids watched me play, they wanted to play. And so my daughter started playing on PC, because initially they were going to do it on the Switch, but because one of them wanted to play like Animal Crossing on the Switch at the same time, we said, okay, you can just play on the other PC. And so I just, made it easiest difficulty for my daughter, where you don't have to worry about losing your microplastics or enemies take more damage, that sort of thing. And she actually almost got through the first boss on her first try. Because, I mean, she was definitely doing a lot more damage than you would normally be doing. But she couldn't quite figure some stuff out, and as much as I tried to help her, she didn't want too much of my help, and so, yeah, I don't know if she's beaten him yet. She's only tried a couple times, I think, but, I mean, the kids play quite a few other games. It's just occasionally she's interested in trying it out because, it's funny and it's colorful and everything, and so, yeah. But, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. Got all the achievements, and I haven't decided exactly when, but at some point I'll probably go back through and finish up New Game Plus, because it shouldn't theoretically take that long since I know where to go. And, of course, the enemies are definitely more difficult. All the bosses included have been more challenging than they were originally by quite a bit, and sometimes have, like, new mechanics and that sort of thing. Very annoying surprises in some cases. So, there's that. But when I finished Another Crab's Treasure, like, fully finished it, I was kind of in that weird spot where I'm just like, I don't know what to play next. Not because I don't have lots of games, but I'm just like, do I want to play another Souls game? If I'm going to play another Souls game, I should probably play Sekiro, because I put that down a while ago and I haven't come back to it. Or I could jump back into Lies of P, or I'm not going to bother with Bloodborne because my save was messed up and I basically have to restart anyway, so I'll just leave that, put that one on the shelf for now. And I couldn't really decide, and so I kind of fiddled around with trying to decide what game I wanted to play, and finally ended up booting up Nier Automata. Now, I will say, I don't think I'm fully, like, sure that I'm playing this. I played a bit more. Initially, I was having some trouble with the controls, because it does control differently from Another Crab's Treasure. But I played enough to at least get through a couple of bosses. Um, I basically got just a little past the the carnival town or whatever it is. Where you fight that one. Actually, no, I think I'm further than that. So you had the carnival type town, and then after you face that, I think you go into like a desert area and you come across like an android thing that spawns out of some robots, or maybe it's vice versa. Maybe I'm mixing them backwards. But regardless, I'm just not super far into it. I'm at like level 11 or something. Now, I will say a couple things I do want to know about this. First of all, footage that's playing is Steam Deck footage. When I had done that comparison before, it was just doing the prologue and all of that. The settings were basically maxed out at either 800 or 720p. I think it was 720p. And then it was, doing basically a locked 60. When I got to the desert area, the frame rate dropped quite a lot. And so I ended up having to lower settings. And it's still, it's just kind of a mix of settings. I ended up turning off anti-aliasing just because on the Steam Deck screen, it looks good without anti-aliasing anyway. And that helps a lot with as far as performance goes, not having anti-aliasing turned on. And after I fiddled with the settings a little bit, I was able to get it to stay pretty much a locked 60. So it's been good from that standpoint. But I played a decent chunk on my desktop as well, and I didn't get any footage recorded. But definitely at 1440p, it looks a lot better. Like, it looks really, really good. And, obviously it's a locked 60, but it's capped at 62. So, I'd be curious. I haven't looked to see if there are any mods that allow me to remove the frame rate cap. I would assume there are. But even if not, it still performs well. So yeah, I'm just kind of like in this weird in-between spot with this game. Like, I want to play it, but at the same time, like, I don't really want to. Like, I want to play it because it's been on my backlog for a while, and I was really enjoying it when I was playing it on the Switch. I think the problem I'm having right at the moment is mostly just the fact that I have so much to do to get caught up to where I was on the Switch. And so it's just hard to be motivated to play through to get caught up. But I don't want to go back to the Switch version because the Switch version is 30 frames per second and lower resolution and everything. And it was good for the Switch, but Steam Deck and PC, it looks and performs way better, so I'd much rather play it there. So yeah, I just have to be motivated enough to really like push through all the early stuff that I've already done previously and get back to where I left off. And I just haven't quite been there. But then I decided to just pick up kind of a random game that I'd been considering checking out for a while that I got for free on Steam probably a couple of years ago. And that's Sludge Life. And this is, I don't know how to explain this game. It's very, it's like first person Jet Set Radio, except that you're not like on skates or anything. You're like on what appears to be almost like an oil rig field or whatever, but the water is just sludge, and I would assume that it's like basically sewer water and that sort of thing. And it's really hard to explain exactly what it is, but a lot of what you're doing is you're doing stuff with graffiti, like just spraying certain things, putting your tagging certain things. And it's like open world-ish. It's kind of a small area, but it's open from the standpoint of you can access anything in that area. And you like collect certain items that will help you to get around a little easier, like a glider. And I really don't know how to explain it. It's an interesting game. I'll just put it that way. I put like probably 3 hours into it over the past several days, and it took me a while to actually get some usable footage recorded because the when I initially recorded footage on the Steam Deck, it glitched out, so it just froze like 10 seconds in. And so I tried recording on my desktop or on my laptop earlier to get some footage, and for some reason, the NVIDIA control panel was not detecting anything but the monitor that is connected through HDMI, which is not my primary monitor, because the other two are connected through the dock through DisplayPort. And so my primary monitor, it just wasn't detecting it. So it was trying to, whenever I tried to record footage, it would only do desktop recording on the monitor that I'm not using, that I'm not playing the game on. So I couldn't record footage that way. I finally ended up just going back to the Steam Deck and remembering that, you know, of course, if I go to desktop mode and then record from there, then that fixes the problem whenever it's having that glitch where it's just freezing up during the recording. And so then I was able to get some usable footage, and that's what's playing right now. Something I will say about this game, as far as performance goes, it's you have to do a tiny bit of tweaking with the settings. Actually, I think by default it runs without any problems and runs at 60. I ended up having, but when I, like initially I messed with the settings, tried to raise some settings a bit, and then I was getting kind of like a mixed frame rate, and then ultimately I ended up just capping it at 60 and didn't have any problems after that. After that, it was, locked 60, no problems. The game has like, with its art style, it has this weird VCR visual effect, kind of like puts scan lines and stuff on your screen. And then it also kind of like does this weird screen swirly effect, kind of, that wasn't really working for me. So I ended up just turning those effects off and just playing without it. And yeah, I mean, I really like the art style, and the gameplay is interesting enough. And it's just kind of a very different kind of game, compared to the other stuff I've been playing. But it's slow paced for the most part. Like, I don't feel like I don't have to worry about, I only have a limited amount of time to do such and such. I just play through at my own pace. And I actually already got one of the endings, because you can get it pretty quickly and easily if you know where to go. But I'll probably end up playing enough to get all of there's like 3 endings, and one of them just requires tagging all of the different spots where you can tag, which is 100 spots, and I don't know how many I have. I think it's probably I probably had like 40 or 50 of them so far. So on my laptop I was getting anywhere from 80 to 100 frames per second. So although I didn't adjust the settings at all, other than increasing the field of view. And obviously I haven't tested it on my desktop. So that's about the extent of it. I haven't played anything else. Like I said, another Crab's Treasure, but I don't have the footage from the Switch version recorded at all. I might try to get some recorded before next week if I play any more there, but otherwise, that's everything.
Okay. Sorry. So I've got several different questions for a Crab's Treasure. Oh gosh. So I can't remember. I can't remember which boss this was supposed to be for, but now I don't know if this was. I think this had to do with the fork and knife boss, but I can't remember if this was on a different one. But oh no, it was the boss that you said was. Can't remember if this is the one you said that was more difficult this time around or not. Or maybe it was a different boss. I can't remember, but there was one boss I was gonna ask if it had. Oh, it was the one that you said you beat on. It was the one that was chasing you around, but then when you fought him for real this time, it was supposed to be harder that time around, but you beat him the first try. Yeah. Did he have any new abilities or anything like that, which is why he was supposed to be harder, or is it just he dealt more damage?
I think it's more the fact that I don't know if he necessarily dealt more damage. I also, was better at blocking, had a lot higher health and more abilities and everything else. I think all of his attacks are the same as they were in the original fight. It's just that in this case, you have to actually get through the entire thing. It's not just 25% of his health has to be knocked off and then he runs away. Instead, you actually have to do the entire fight.
Okay. And then, just because I was curious, especially since you have gotten all the achievements, are there... I take it then there aren't, like, multiple endings for the game, or at least you don't need to get, like, all of them?
No, just one ending. It's just... you have to go into New Game Plus in order to... there's, like, 3 achievements that are specific to New Game Plus. And then everything else is stuff you can get in the first playthrough.
Okay, then that answers like the next question about what the different achievements were. And so I guess were those just like collectible things, like sort of like how you have to get all the rings in Dark Souls or something like that?
No, it's one of them is just starting New Game Plus. One of them is you have to upgrade the amount of things you can carry, which you can't do in the first game because you don't have... once you've purchased a certain number of those stowaways, that's what they're called. It's basically just like add little like I guess you could almost call them rings, but they're not really rings. They're just things that go inside your shell that give you like different buffs and bonuses, that sort of thing. You can only upgrade to a certain point in the base game, even though it's all paid for with microplastics, which is the equivalent of souls. And once you've purchased a certain number of stowaways that you can carry in a new game, you can't purchase anymore. You don't have the option. So when you start New Game Plus, as soon as you get back to that area, once you purchase an upgrade to carry more stowaways, you get the achievement.
Okay.
And then the last one was just a certain type of stowaway thing that you can only get, and you can only purchase in New Game Plus.
All right, that's not so bad then. And I mean, I guess about how long would you say overall it took you to get everything?
I think the total number of hours I have in the game is about 40. Let me check and see here. And I mean, I did play a little extra beyond what I needed to do, but let's see here. Yeah, of course it's not showing up in my recent games because I got a bunch of stuff from Fanatical, but let me find it here. It's here. Another Crab's Treasure. Yeah, just under 40 hours.
Okay, that's not bad then. I might have to boot that up then in between stuff.
Yeah, you might as well.
Because I've already been tempted, especially after watching you during the live stream. I was just thinking to myself, man, I should really download this game.
You should. I mean, you will enjoy it. I have no doubt about it. And it's not overly hard for Souls-like. I mean, I wouldn't call it easy by any stretch, but compared with Dark Souls, I definitely would say it's easier. It's now New Game Plus seems to definitely have bumped up the difficulty quite a lot, because the fact that I'm at like level 70 something and these enemies are giving me a challenge definitely says a lot. And the fact that they aren't just like slightly stronger versions of their original forms, they're just they add some new mechanics, like one of the bosses in the original game just like spits out poison, basically like the gunk that after you're in it for a while it will poison you. In New Game Plus, this boss spits out a different type of thing that doesn't show up normally until late in the game, that actually once it builds up it deteriorates your shell really fast. And so basically, like, I guess you could say it pretty much melts your shell after a while. It's a horrible thing to deal with. And I think it builds up faster than the gunk does, too. So it's a lot worse.
Okay. And And then, I mean, I know this probably would be hard to remember, but and you probably mentioned this before in the past too, but about how far did you get in the Switch version of Nier Automata?
The last thing I remember was Adam and Eve.
Okay.
I think I had like 25 hours, maybe. Something like that. So it's not necessarily like it would be overly difficult to get back to where I was, but I think it's just because it's open enough to where it's not always entirely straightforward. I mean, I guess if I just follow the objectives, I probably could get there faster. But I also spent a lot more time just like wandering around and stuff in the Switch version, so it's hard to say how much time it would take for me to get there. I'd probably just have to boot it up and look and see where I got on the Switch version.
Yeah, and I can, since that's where you were last, where you believe you last left off. Yeah, I could definitely say that, if you don't feel like getting back into the game, probably, don't worry about it right now and take your time with that, since you'd still have like a lot to get through, and I wouldn't want you just to like have the game be a sludge trying to get through it.
Right.
So yeah, I can understand that.
And I will say that it was like the first encounter. It was a little past that first encounter with them. I don't know if there's anything. I mean, I would assume that there's more encounters beyond that, but that first encounter was how far I got. I mean, it was definitely past that. I just don't remember how far past that, because that's the last thing I specifically remember from the story.
Okay. Good stuff.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
All right, sounds good. Well, let's get into the news then. So, first of all, we had the PlayStation State of Play that was based on basically Japanese developers and just Asian developers in general, but it was a Japan-specific, or rather, it was a Japan-hosted PlayStation State of Play, even though the games are, of course, also coming to other countries. Now, I will say, from my standpoint, there wasn't much of anything that really stood out to me as far as like being exciting. But I mean, I might have to look at the list again. I mean, I checked the list after I watched it of everything that was shown there, and it was like, okay, this is notable, this was notable, and then everything else was just kind of like meh. But what were your thoughts? Did you have anything that stuck out to you?
Yeah, I definitely agree that this was a whole lot. It was quite underwhelming from what I was expecting. This is essentially ended up being more of a state of DLC since most of the announcements were DLC or updates for games, which I mean isn't a bad thing per se, but well, I was expecting a whole lot of, I guess, more new stuff announced. I mean, I think that probably the two. Okay, apart from one thing which I feel like you're going to talk about, the two things that really stood out to me the most were probably things that weren't even games themselves related, but more so like a hardware related things, I would say. And like one of them being the monitor that Sony is coming up with, which is the monitor that they've got advertised as being for the PS5 Pro and PC as well. And actually, let me see if I can quickly pull up the stats, because I didn't see it initially, but then later I saw the full stats for that. Okay, yeah, 1440p IPS display, HDR, VRR up to 120 Hz for the PS5, PS5 Pro, 240 Hz for PC. It has a built-in charging hook for a DualSense controller, 2 HDMI in 2.1s, 1 DisplayPort 1.4, 2 USB Type A, 1 USB Type C ports, stereo speaker with audio output and it's coming out in 2026, and that's essentially it. My thought on that is it's interesting that they're doing something like this. I mean, especially since, we saw earlier this year they were going to do the like the speakers and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, cool, having this here. But the fact that it's not OLED, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like, what's the point of getting this then if you could technically get another monitor that is gonna have the same thing? I mean, it's 1440p, 240 hertz. You could probably still find something like that. And also, what's the price gonna be?
Right.
I mean, especially since it's not OLED. So I mean, if it's gonna be more than $400-$500, I'm just like, you could probably get something better, and maybe even get an OLED monitor too, if you're gonna be spending more than that. So I don't know. It was interesting, but unless this thing is $300 ish, then it would be a pass for me. Because I almost was considering getting it. I was like, if this is OLED, I don't have an OLED monitor yet, that might be the one I get. But since I'm seeing it's not, I'm just like, I'll pass.
Yeah. I actually forgotten about that monitor, because I do remember now seeing that and was like, oh yeah, especially the charging thing for the DualSense. I thought was pretty cool. Just a nice little, nice touch, I guess. And I mean, like, I like the design of it. I think it's pretty cool, but like you said, the fact that it's not OLED is disappointing. I think everything else about it sounds great. I think it, like, legitimately sounds like a great monitor. And of course, I'm a big fan of 1440p now that I've experienced it. But for me, obviously, like, I have 1440p OLED monitor, 240 hertz. I don't know if it has a USB-C port, but I haven't used any of the USB ports anyway on this one. Like, I have the USB ports on my 1080p 240 hertz monitor that I use all the time, because I have it connected to my desktop so that I can use it for I mostly use it for controllers or for plugging in a flash drive, that sort of thing. I'd have to actually look and see. I'm pretty sure that this one has USB ports, my primary one, my OLED monitor, but I haven't used them. Mostly just because I haven't thought about it, and since I already have the 2 USB ports on the other one, the USB-A, I mean, to me, that's all I really need. I don't have really anything that I would need the USB-C ports for. Because most of the time, I mean, like, I have quite a few USB-C devices, but I have USB-A to USB-C cables out the wazoo. I mean, I have quite a few of them, so I'm not really concerned about that. But either way, I do think that monitor is very cool. I think it's definitely something I would recommend people check out, especially if it's a decent price. Because if it's like $400 to $500, that's pretty good for that. But like mine, I think was $600 or $650 for the 1440p OLED HDR 240 hertz. So I'm really happy with my monitor. It was one of the best purchases I've made in a while. It's been great. For me, the one of the games that did really stand out to me was BlazBlue Entropy Effect X. It's like a 2D roguelike, but it was like action roguelike. It looked really, like, the visuals and the gameplay style looked really fun. And it had, like, a variety of different characters you could play as and that sort of thing. And I did find that the first game, Entropy Effect, is already on Steam. Entropy Effect X is not listed on Steam, at least wasn't earlier today. But my guess is it probably will be coming the same time to Steam. I don't know that it would necessarily be something that I'm like, oh, I want to buy this day one, but just more, it was a cool looking game, and I think that was the only game that I saw in that whole thing that legitimately was like, I'll probably check this out at some point. Handful of other games that looked kind of interesting, but nothing that stood out to me to the point where it was like, where it actually got me excited. The only thing that really got me kind of excited halfway was DLC for one of the games. And even that only got me half excited because it's a game that I'm probably not going to play. So, anyway, do you have any thoughts on that one, or you have a different one you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I actually do have something to say, mention that. So I was initially confused at first because I thought Entropy Effect was a sequel game Entropy Effect X was a sequel game for the first one, but it actually turns out, from what I've seen, it is Entropy Effect, but it has all the DLC plus a new story,
Okay.
chapter. From what I've seen, because I was really confused too, because I wasn't seeing anything about PC. I was wondering why that was the case, but apparently it is just the game plus a new scenario in the story. So
okay,
that's interesting.
Good to know.
Additionally, I was also confused because maybe I'm just wrong and I looked up something, but I was certain that this game, or at least just Entropy Effect, was on the PS5 and Switch. So like for some reason I kept looking and I kept seeing only PC and mobile. I'm thinking to myself, now I'm certain this game was on consoles too. Like I can't be living in an episode of The Twilight Zone, am I? where like it's wrong. I don't know, but apparently wasn't. So I mean, I'm glad that if it hasn't been coming to the consoles, then it's coming now. But I thought it was already there to begin with. Now I am curious though if we would get an X edition where we have all the DLC available, especially the new storyline that's coming. Now I actually have played Entropy Effect a little bit.
Okay.
I played it probably about sometime last year. And I mainly got it just because of Blaze Blue, even though the game really has very little to do with Blaze Blue apart from just having the characters appear in there. And it's interesting. I think I have to put some more time into it just to get at least to understand how some of the mechanics work. But it's an interesting game, I'll say. And it definitely is flashy and not bad overall. I think the performance on the Steam Deck was good. I can't remember if it was 90, but it was at least 60. I know that much. But yeah, it's not bad. And I think I even got it cheap or some sort of bundle where I got the game plus I think a little bit of the DLC that was available at the time. So not bad overall. If we do get a next version on PC, I would feel like definitely hold out and get that version instead, since they'll have everything plus the new story. But yeah. Okay,
well that's good to know, because yeah, I did see that the game was on PC, that the base version. I didn't realize that. I mean, from what I've read online, it sounded like X was a sequel, and then like you said, I looked it up again after you said that, and it's like, yep, you're right. It is in fact just the original version, because it didn't originally come to consoles, and they just added all the DLC included with it. So I'll keep my eyes peeled for sales on that. Probably check like Instant Gaming and stuff and see if they have a sale that would include all the DLC, because sometimes they do have like really good deals, and it'd be funny to be able to get the game with all DLC for like $30 less than what the consoles are paying. But it was confirmed for all consoles, so
which is also great. So we got the Xbox too, so that's great.
Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch 2. I think it might even be for the base Switch as well. Let me check that.
Should be there. I can't think of any reason why it shouldn't be there.
Actually, yeah, it is. The Switch. I'm not sure if it even has a Switch 2 version right now. But let's see here. Yeah, it's just a Switch version. So it doesn't even have a Switch 2 version. Either way, that's still cool. Any other games that stood out to you, or other announcements?
One more thing stood out to me, and this isn't a big thing or anything that would impact us, but I thought it was interesting. Well, actually, this was right before the show. technically, Sony announced that it would have a region-locked PS5 that would be sold exclusively in Japan for 55,000 yen. And this is also, I think that's also region-locked. I can't remember if it's region-locked.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not only just Japanese only, but it'll only play games, Japanese versions as well. And that also, price converted, is roughly around 356 USD. So it's interesting that they're getting a cheaper version. It seems like probably the only time this generation where a console is cheaper than it probably has been before. And
I think the Switch 2 also has. I'm pretty sure the Switch 2 also has a region-locked version for Japan. That's cheaper.
Okay then. So I stand corrected in that regard. But yeah, I mean, the one thing I will say that is disappointing is the fact that this is also only the digital version. So, it's, which is also kind of weird considering the fact that Japan is a physical centric market. They love their physical over there. So why they only do this for the digital version is a bit puzzling, but at least technically there's a cheaper alternative than what they've had before. But yeah, I just thought that was pretty noteworthy to me.
Yeah, I seem to remember reading that the Switch 2 is already outsold the PS5 in Japan. So I think that
they did
that PlayStation's doing this at least in part because they're trying to get more Japanese customers. Now, I'm sure that assuming they actually are going to be doing a portable PlayStation next gen to, as a companion console, essentially, that will sell really well in Japan. I think so. But obviously right now Nintendo has the market because they're the ones that have, they're the only main console manufacturer that has a handheld available right now. I mean, Xbox technically does, but with as pricey as it is and the fact that it's not like an Xbox in the same sense, it's probably, I think mostly because of the price, it's just not going to sell very well in Japan. And Xbox typically hasn't sold that well in Japan anyway, even though they've been getting a lot of Japanese support in recent years. A lot. It's been great for them, and hopefully that will more just encourage people to who have avoided the Xbox because they wanted the Japanese games to at least give it a second look. I don't think it's going to make a drastic difference, but it's still good just to have that relationship there because that improves. That just makes it so that more people have more options when it comes to the Xbox and aren't as limited, aren't having to buy additional consoles. And of course, the whole bringing PC storefronts to the Xbox will certainly make a difference as well. Yeah, there really isn't anything else I can think of. I mean, there was another game I saw, I think it was from Inti Creates, maybe I'm mixing it up with a different game I saw, but no, it wasn't Inti Creates. I'm thinking of a different game that was Inti Creates, but there was another game from Pocket Pair, actually. And it was like a 2D roguelike kind of thing that looked kind of interesting, but I wasn't entirely sold on it. And I don't even remember the name of it, but really the only other thing left for me was just the Elden Ring DLC, or Elden Ring Night Rain DLC. And depending on what else you have, we can save that one for last.
No, nothing else for me in that regard.
All right, so with this Night Rain DLC, they're adding a couple more character classes. One is the Undertaker, which seems to be like a mace-wielding agility type class. And then a Scholar, which is fencing and uses sorceries / miracles. But the biggest thing about this that was exciting to me, even though I'm still not planning to play it because I'm just not interested in the multiplayer thing, is that they are adding Artorias the Abyss Walker from Dark Souls Remastered. Or, well, from Dark Souls 1, from the DLC. And it's like, yes, Artorias is great. I mean, of course, I love seeing Dark Souls 1 bosses in general, but Artorias especially is just like one of the most interesting bosses to face in the whole game, without question. Like, I thought it was exciting when they had the Nameless King for Elden Ring Night Reign. But Artorias to me is way more exciting because that's just such a memorable boss fight. I mean, really both of them are, but Artorias is something special. And I even when he's been very challenging, I look forward to that fight. Like, I both look forward to it and dread it at the same time because it's one of those where I'm like, either I'm going to get my butt kicked severely or I'm going to kick his butt severely, and there's no in between. But I've fought him now 4 times. Yeah, 4 times. Or, well, I've beaten him 4 separate times. And, yeah. Such a great fight. I mean, there's so many more they could add that would be really cool to see. Like, I mean, if they added Slave Knight Gale from Dark Souls 3, that would be incredible. Some of there's just so many great fights that they could put in there, and they've definitely put in some good ones, but yeah, it just gives me the warm fuzzies. I guess you could say Artorias gives me the warm fuzzies. It's his puppy that gives me the warm fuzzies when it's giant and slicing at me with a sword. Anyway, your thoughts?
Yeah, the trailer definitely looked good, and I'm fairly certain, I could be wrong, but there was one boss in addition to Artorias that I think was from Elden Ring, or at least the DLC. Because I can't remember. I can't remember what the boss was named, but it essentially was like one of the boss was kind of like one of those parade Chinese dragons, essentially.
Okay.
And in one of the clips in there, it looked like it was that boss, but I'm not certain, so I would have to like go back and see if anyone else caught that or anything like that. But
yeah.
That one also was interesting. Although it's interesting that they would choose that boss to be added in the game and not like another Dark Souls boss. But yeah, definitely Artorias is a welcome, a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. Now, one thing that also, I mean, granted, I shouldn't be too surprised, but I still was surprised, was that the DLC is going to be $15, which isn't bad, I would say. Yeah. But again, in perspective that the game itself is only $40, that makes sense then. But so it's not too expensive. But similar to you, it's not going to be a game that I get, and mainly just because, while I believe it can run based on what it said, based on the Steam Deck compatibility page, I just don't want it because it has kernel anti-cheat that has to be removed separately from the game, even if you want to install it. So I'm like, I don't feel like going through that hassle for that. So I'm just like, I'll pass for right now. But it looks good, though, at least I'll say.
Yeah, for sure. Will be exciting for people who want to play Night Rain. It just, I don't want to play the multiplayer specific games like that because I just don't have the time to. Well, maybe it's not so much a time thing, but I don't really like being forced to play a multiplayer game. I'd rather be like, when I want to play multiplayer, I can play multiplayer, but I can do it single player if I want as well.
Right.
So yeah, that was really all I had from the state of play.
Same here. Same here.
All right. You want to? Well, I guess you can pick any of the other remaining topics to talk about.
All right. Okay, yeah. So I guess I will jump into this leaked icon that was mentioned for the PS5. And also, so I guess there's been sort of an update here that I see here. So originally there was a an icon that was data mined for the PS5, and it was shared on Twitter/X. It's the symbol that says cross buy for PS5 and for PC as well. And this was, people were wondering if what this means. It's, and the symbol was shown on the PS5, not the PS4. And some people were wondering if it was just something about, well, maybe because of the cross buy, it could be something that is a generational thing where if you buy something on, say, like the PS4 or PS3 or something like that, it will be available on the PS5. But then I see there was an update later on that was posted saying that this, the code, it's saying that it's not legacy code that is attached to older hardware, but it's a completely new feature. So it does suggest that this is something that Sony will be implementing across the board. Not implementing across the board, but to me for things outside of PS5 hardware. So, PC perhaps. There's definitely a lot of speculation about what that could mean, but we don't know too much of it right now. But what are your thoughts on this leak?
Well, I'm trying not to be too smug because nothing's confirmed yet. But it does look like day and date is coming sooner than we thought. That being said, it would also not surprise me if it just ends up being that they initially are like, okay, a number of games are going to be available to play on PC early on. Or, like if you purchase a game that's on PS5 and PC already, if you do the cross-buy, you'll be able to get it across both platforms, which, of course, would have been nice to have earlier. I mean, not that it would have made a big difference because I didn't have any PS5 games. But my thought is that more likely than not, what's going to happen is that initially it will be they're going to have a PlayStation launcher on PC, which seems very likely. It makes sense that they would do that. And if you do the cross-buy option, you have to do it through the PlayStation launcher. It would be very similar to what Xbox does with Xbox Play Anywhere, where if you purchase a game either on the Windows Store or on Xbox, that you can have entitlements for both versions, for both PC and the other system. I have a feeling that's probably going to be what happens with this. Now, my big question with it, of course, is this going to be like games that you already own? Like if they were to bring over PS4 games to PC and initially it's just launching on the PlayStation launcher, PS4 games get brought over, like, for example, Gravity Rush Remastered and Gravity Rush 2. If they brought those over, would initially be, okay, if you have cross-buy, you can play it through the PlayStation launcher, but it's not coming to Steam until later. Or is it going to be that if you already bought it on PlayStation, you can play it on the PC launcher without having to purchase it again, but you, if you want, even though it comes out on Steam at the same time, if you want it on Steam, you obviously have to buy it on Steam. I have a feeling that it's going to be somewhere along. It's going to be one of those two options, most likely. Either it will be day and date on Steam, but obviously you won't have cross-buy, or it will be not day and date on Steam, but you will still have cross-buy if you play it through the PlayStation launcher or purchase it on the PlayStation launcher, whichever. With all that being said, regardless of what it is, I do think the day and date is coming. I think it's going to be coming sooner than we thought. I think there is a reasonable chance we could see it happen as soon as Wolverine, which would be next year. Now, I am not going to buy Wolverine because I already have a gut feeling that the story is going to be garbage. And I don't trust Insomniac after what they did with Spider-Man. They lost my trust, and I don't believe they're going to do Wolverine justice. Now, if I find out differently from people who I trust their judgment, then I'm willing to give it a shot, because I think the gameplay looks good. Like, it looks like something I would probably enjoy. But my problem, of course, is that it sounds like the story is probably going to be utter garbage, and I'm just not okay with that. Like, I won't support that for a game where I actually do care about the story. And these Marvel games, I do care about the story. And if the story's bad, then I'm not interested. Like, Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, of course, that wasn't developed by Insomniac. You know, it was a Crystal Dynamics game. But the story was great. I thought the story was great. The gameplay was great. The music was great. I mean, everything about that game was great. And it was a nice, fairly short game. And, of course, I got it for very cheap too, so that certainly helped things. But yeah, it's like, and then Insomniac did a great job with Spider-Man Remastered. I mean, all across the board it was great. Apart from the stealth sections with Mary Jane and Miles, those sections were not good. In fact, those sections really sucked. But they were still, even though they were more present than I wanted them to be, they were not so present to where they ruined the game, because the rest of the game was great. The story was great. The music was great. The gameplay was great. Highly enjoyable game. Miles Morales, the story was not as good, but it was still good enough to where I was happy with it. The gameplay was great. But then Spider-Man 2, they decided to double down on the Mary Jane garbage that nobody liked. Make her look worse for no reason. And do an absolute garbage story. And it's just like, you guys lost me as a customer. And yeah, but either way, I do hope Day and Date, I don't just hope, I believe Day and Date is coming soon. Now, how soon, it's hard to say, but it would not surprise me if it happens with Wolverine. And I mean, technically Wolverine's already on PC anyway, but I haven't played it on PC, and I'm not planning to play it unless I find out that the story is actually good. And there are only a few people that I will trust to tell me it's good, because most of the people that I will hear it's good from are the same people who thought that The Last of Us and Spider-Man 2 had great stories, and that Ghost of Yote had a great story. And it's like, if that's your judgment, then I don't trust your judgment. So, that's pretty much everything I have to say on that.
Yeah, you brought up a great point about how soon games, or rather, if the games come over to PC via the potential PlayStation Store, would that, how soon would those games come to Steam? I feel like there's no reason why they shouldn't be coming over to PC at the same time. Like you said, if it comes over to Steam, you would lose that cross-buy feature and stuff, and any other, I guess you could say, perks that come with using the the Sony account and stuff like that. But, Sony would still be shooting themselves in the foot by not putting it on the largest platform on PC. So, I think, I would hope they're smart enough to not delay putting it on Steam.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think also if they're trying to get more of the active users, people who log into account and make new accounts, I think that would definitely help boost their numbers that way. Since if people, especially since like you said, more than likely you would be forced to make a Sony account if you use the app and stuff like that. So
absolutely.
So I think that's definitely gonna happen. Is it something I would necessarily use? No, but I think that's still a great feature, and I think for people who would want to, people, especially if you're coming over from console and say you would say, well, I would play on PC, but I can't play my games that I've already purchased, then that would be something that could help incentivize them to give it a shot, PC gaming a shot. And that would be cool. Although something I just thought about, which would be something I thought about is with the Xbox Ally X, if you go into desktop mode, and if there is a PlayStation Store, you could get the PlayStation Store and play your PlayStation games that way. So if you had any games that you purchased that were compatible with the program, any games you bought on the PS5 would then be available on your Xbox. So yeah, Xbox Ally is getting the PlayStation games one way or another then, technically. So even if you don't use Steam, you would still get the games. So that's just something there. But I do think, though, like I said, I do think that there shouldn't be any delay in games coming over that would be, coming over to the PS Store. Like I said, the only thing would be you wouldn't be able to get stuff, like you wouldn't be able to get PlayStation trophies. Now, one thing I would hope is, because they do have that store, is that they stop trying to force Steam users to have to use or log into a PlayStation account. That I do hope, because of the fact they do have that store, they would say, okay, we have this store for people who want to use it, but because you all were tired of us forcing you to do that, we'll put the games on Steam, so that way you can have the option to not, be forced into that. So I do hope that at least fixes that issue there. So that way,
I think they already walked that back, though. I'm pretty sure they did. That it's not forced anymore.
Overall, because I know they did for like a couple games, but I didn't know if that was. I'm
not entirely sure, but I thought that it was basically that they were no longer requiring it. I'll have to look.
Okay.
And
well,
see
I certainly hope so, because if that's the case, then that's great. And I'm sorry that I missed the boat on that one, but yeah, I mean, if they have, great, then there's no need for that. But if they haven't done it, then I think at this point, then they can just cut that requirement then for any games that are in Steam. But yeah, I think that would be good either way. Now, I think I'm kind of torn about, though, if Wolverine would be their day and date, just because it would be smart on Sony's end to do it that way, but I don't know if, because they haven't said anything about Wolverine being on PC, or at least being outside of the PlayStation platform, if they would just suddenly drop that title without any type of heads up. But it would be funny, and it would be smart on their end, because there would be people who would buy it day and date on PC.
Yeah, it looks like, at least, I mean, the only one that says it's still requiring it, even though I thought that they dropped it, is Helldivers 2. But like both Spider-Man 2 and Last of Us Part 2 do not require it.
Okay.
So I think that it's just optional for most games.
Yeah. And that's weird, because I thought that Helldivers 2 definitely had that requirement cut.
I thought so too, but at least on the Steam page it still shows that it requires it, whereas it doesn't show that on the other games.
Interesting.
It just has a regular third-party end-user license agreement, which is completely separate.
All right, I'll have to check back in then and boot up the game and see what happens then, because yeah, that's definitely weird. Huh. All right. Well, nothing additional from me on this topic.
Yeah, the only thing I want to add is just more, I hope that if they do actually make it possible for, like, if you've already purchased the games on PlayStation to that you'd be able to have them on PC, assuming the games actually come over. I mean, for me, that would be a motivator for me to use the PlayStation launcher initially, because like before, I had talked about in the past that I'd be okay with using a PlayStation launcher, but as time has gone on, I've been kind of like, I don't really want to use it. But if I was able to have entitlements to the PlayStation 4 games that I purchased previously, like the 2 Gravity Rush games and like the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection, for example, like if they brought those over and I was able to play them on the PlayStation launcher without having to make an extra purchase, I would be fine doing that. And then I just buy them on Steam and or GOG if they ever come over to GOG, which who knows if it will, since they haven't done any new games with GOG in quite a while. But that's about the extent of what I would do, because I'm trying to think through what PlayStation games I have that I haven't actually finished on PS4, and I believe, I mean, of course, PS3 games would be great, but they haven't even brought them over to PS5, so then bringing over PS3 games to PC is like slim to non-existent. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that the Gravity Rush games, which technically really only the second one because I've beaten the first one just on Vita, and Nathan Drake collection are the only ones that I have not finished. I mean, I guess technically you could say Bloodborne as well, but I got that so that I could play it on PC. So I don't know. I'm going to be curious to see what happens, because I have told people again and again the day and date games are coming. It's just a matter of when. And I even said multiple times, I think it could happen as early as next year. And I mean, we'll see. But the fact that these icons exist already tells me that it's probably going to be next year that we start seeing this. Now, is it going to be with brand new games right away? I don't know. It could very well just be that they do it cross-buy with the games that are already on PC. That if you've already purchased them on PlayStation or vice versa, that you would get licenses on the other platform. But I don't know. I mean, how much I care about this is honestly kind of mixed, because I've just been so uninterested in most of the newer PlayStation games. I mean, like, I bought the ones that I wanted to play, and then beyond that, like, all the stuff that's come out recently, which isn't much, has been stuff where I haven't wanted it at all. And so really at this point, it's just if they bring over games that are older games that I already know are great, then it would be great. I mean, unfortunately, Infamous, I only have them physical. So one of these days I probably should try out playing the PS3 Infamous games on my PC with it upgraded now, because I only tried it before I upgraded it, and because of how bad PS3 emulation tends to be with some games, it wasn't running well. But it might run better now, since I have a much better CPU and GPU. But I don't know. Anyway. That is all I have to say on that topic.
Same here, but as we see, it looks like all roads do in the end lead to PC.
Yep. Well, speaking of something that may or may not be leading to PC, we'll have to wait and see, but Grand Theft Auto 6 got another delay. So it was originally supposed to be coming out in, I believe, November of 2025. Then it got pushed back to May of 2026. And now it's been pushed back to November of 2026. And it wouldn't surprise me in the least if that means that they're planning to do day and date on PC instead of doing their typical thing that they do with literally every game before it, where they'll release the PC version a year later so that people will double dip. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not too surprised that there is a delay. I feel like this was kind of bound to happen based on how they've been in the past with games being pushed back a couple times. So at least it's still within 2026, but it would be interesting though to see if this delay is because they were going to try to have a day and date for PC. I don't know. I mean, granted, I know that they had some layoffs recently and stuff, and I don't know all the details on that, but I don't know if any of that had to do with why the game was delayed or not. But if that didn't have any bearings on the delay, then I would like to hope that part of the reason for the delay is that they're trying to say, all right, if we can finish finish up our PC port, then we'll go ahead and just launch everything all together rather than push back the PC delay and whatnot. I could be wrong. They could, like you said, just decide to make people try to double dip and release it a year later. But I don't know if that would really work this time, because I think that with the way things are kind of changing, people on PC are willing to wait long enough now these days, especially since with games, being exclusive releasing on PlayStation, then, wait a year or so and then it comes to PC. I think for something like this, people could possibly, granted, I don't know, granted I could be wrong, the Grand Theft Auto crowd probably is different than the PC player who would like to play a PS game. So I could be wrong there. They could try to double dip. Either way, it's not going to impact me too much because I wasn't really interested. But if it is coming to PC day and date, that would be awesome though. I would still love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, of course, as I've stated in the past, I have zero interest in Grand Theft Auto 6. I wasn't interested in Grand Theft Auto 5. I mean, I think I had a very brief interest in checking out Grand Theft Auto 5, but that faded pretty quickly once I found other open world games that were more my style. And I don't know, I just, I completely lost interest in playing Grand Theft Auto 5, and then, so Grand Theft Auto 6 has had zero appeal to me. And I've had the opportunity to buy Grand Theft Auto 5 since 2013 because I had a PS3 back then, and then of course it came to PC later and PS4, and I've had multiple opportunities over the past 12 plus years to buy the game, and I never bought it. And I think the closest I ever came was before I bought my PS4 back in 2015. Yeah, it was early 2015. That was the last time that I had any real interest, potentially. And then I decided to just get the Destiny bundle and never looked back. And so my interest is below zero on this. So whether it comes to PC day one or not, I don't care. But I do think that Rockstar also has to recognize, with all the money they've made on the PC versions, especially Grand Theft Auto 5 and Grand Theft Auto Online, they just have to be looking at those dollars and being like, we can make a whole lot more money, and more people are not wanting to double dip anymore, and PC gamers are willing to wait. But, if we release it day one, we're going to make a whole lot more money, and we're going to have a bunch of people. I mean, it's going to be dominating the Steam charts without question whenever it comes out. So ultimately the question they have to ask themselves is, do they feel lucky? Do you, punk? And I don't know. I mean, once again, I don't care either way. I think it would be very funny if it comes day one to PC, mostly because as much as the console fanboys have been constantly been GTA 6, GTA 6, GTA 6, talking about the fact that it's not going to be on PC. I just don't care. And it would be really funny though, like I said, if it comes to PC day one, because then they won't have that to hold over anymore. And considering the fact that they're basically losing their exclusives, I mean, Xbox hasn't had exclusives in a while, and even less so with their games coming to PlayStation now. And PlayStation, it has some temporary exclusives, but that's probably going to be changing. And it could be sooner than we think. I mean, we'll have to see what happens next year. Whenever this cross-buy thing gets officially announced, we'll kind of see what happens with that. But I have a feeling that it's going to be really soon that we're going to be seeing day one games on PC, and then games like GTA 6, if those come at the same time as well, what the console ultimately will have left is just the value proposition of being a cheaper box that can play whatever games come out. But is that going to be enough for people? I mean, yes, of course, a lot of people, well, I should say, it will play the games and they don't have to fiddle with settings. They don't have any freedom, but they don't really care because it's simple. And it's a out-of-the-box, couch-friendly experience. But I mean, the value proposition from our perspective as longtime PC gamers is just not there. And I mean, I think that Rockstar has to recognize that the draw for people to buy a console, it's not going to happen so much this time. There will be people who would go out and buy a console for GTA 6. But I think that number has dwindled significantly, and that a lot more people have moved over to PC than in previous generations. And then there's a lot of people that just, people who are already on PC, they'll just wait. We have more than enough games to play. I mean, I have on multiple occasions bought Fanatical bundles, spent $15 and gotten like 20 games. And some of them are like, I don't have any interest in this game. And there's some of them like, oh, that looks cool. Or, oh, this has been on my wish list for a while. Sure, I'll take it. And so, regardless of what happens with GTA 6, I mean, the delay makes sense. And it would not surprise me in the least if the reason it got this delay this time is because they're planning to do day one on PC. So my long-winded answer is summed up with that.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. And and I did have an opportunity to play GTA 5 because I borrowed a friend's Xbox One like some odd years ago and stuff, because he said, you can give it a shot. I was like, all right, cool. And one of the games that was installed was GTA 5, and I played it, and I was like, huh, so this is the game that people are talking about? I don't get it. I mean, I played it for a while, probably put in like 3 or 4 hours, but I was like, I'll check out one of the other games instead, and I played like Gears of War instead.
Yeah, I think basically once I experienced Red Dead Redemption, I was like, I'm not interested in GTA anymore. And then even the original Watch Dogs, which wasn't a great game, and I mean, I played it first on the Wii U. Actually, that's really the only place I really played it. I think I tried it a tiny bit on PC, played like maybe an hour, but even with as flawed as that game was, I liked it better than GTA. And then Watch Dogs 2, I liked a lot. And it's just like, I can have an open world checklist kind of game that is just more fun than, because it just gets old doing the mayhem stuff in GTA, going around and just running over people and shooting random people and whatever, getting chased by cops. It's like, it just gets boring really fast. It's just not exciting. What I liked about Watch Dogs, especially Watch Dogs 2, was when you could complete a level without ever being seen. And you just do it entirely by hacking. Now, the first Watch Dogs didn't have that very much, unfortunately. But the second Watch Dogs, you could sit outside and use drones and stuff and hack through everything and just complete all the objectives without ever entering the building. And I loved that. I just thought that was such a much more fun and creative way to get through levels than going around and shooting people or whatever. It's like, that's boring. That isn't fun. And I think it's because of the puzzle solving aspect of it, because it's really what it is. It's solving a puzzle. And so I enjoy that far more than the mayhem stuff. And when I want the mayhem type stuff, I'll play a game like Destiny or some other proper shooter. So, yeah. Cool. All right. Well, that's all the topics I think we have time for tonight. So let's get into our recommendations and dissuasions. So why don't you start us off?
All right. So my recommendation is going to be to periodically fully reboot your computer if you tend to leave it on for a period of days. So the reason I primarily recommended this just because my work computer was acting a bit slow, and I went into Task Manager and saw that I had used up 85% of my memory, and I'm just looking. I mean, granted, I know I've got stuff from work on my computer, but like, I'm like, how is Chrome and Brave? How are Chrome and Brave using so much memory? And I mean, sure, yes, it's Chrome and whatnot, but I'm just like, all right, I know this shouldn't be right. So I restarted my computer and it was good and it worked. It turned out well. So, definitely if your computer's running slowly, do it. But I think just in general, every now and then, fully turn off your computer and then turn it back on, and you can have better general performance overall. So I definitely recommend doing that.
So I would agree with that in part. I would say, though, I think shutting down and turning back on, it's good to shut down from the standpoint of it's better than keeping the computer on. I think restarting is always the best thing to do because, as we say in the IT biz, a restart a day keeps IT away. Or at least a restart every couple of days. And I would say probably at least 75% to 90% of the issues that come up, maybe even more, with computers, if you restart it, it will almost always fix the problem. It's not going to fix it every time. There are definitely times where it's going to be something more involved. But most of the time, if you restart your computer, and that's restart, not shut down, restart, that will fix your problem most of the time. So, good stuff. Well, my recommendation, it's kind of a two-part recommendation. So, first of all, I have to recommend tacos. Just tacos in general. Just tacos. Any kind of tacos. Breakfast tacos, regular tacos, whatever. Tacos are great. But more specifically beyond that, I recommend having themed nights for meals. Like just having, basically you say, for example, we've long had pizza on Fridays. Sometimes there's an exception, like if we have people over and we can't do pizza for whatever reason, and then we'll move it to Saturday, whatever. So we have pizza Fridays, and I spell Fridays with a PH, so then it's alliterated, sort of. But then, we have like Taco Tuesdays, which it's not necessarily we're going to have tacos, it's just Mexican food or Mexican type food. Meatball Mondays, which is not necessarily going to have meatballs, it's just some type of pasta, as the British would say. And Wednesday is whatever Wednesday, because the kids usually have like certain meals on Wednesday, because there's like a certain things that they eat every Wednesday, especially when we have discipleship and kids club that night, because it's just like, okay, we have something simple. We know what they're going to eat. They'll eat whatever they want. And they'll eat those things. Then my wife and I will eat whatever, whether it's leftovers or what have you. And then beyond that, we don't really have specific nights. But the nice thing is that if you have set up specific nights set up for specific things, or at least a general theme, that makes it a lot easier to come up with ideas for what you're going to eat for those nights. And for me, that's especially helpful because the fact that I do the majority of the cooking for dinners. I cook dinner almost every night, and so having a theme in mind always helps me because that narrows it down considerably over what it would be otherwise. So that is that aspect, and although it wasn't written down, I'm still going to recommend Another Crab's Treasure because it's great, and it's hilarious, and it's funny. Oh, that reminds me, I forgot to tell you with that, I did try out for the achievement, giving him a gun on his back. It one-shots everything. I didn't try it out on any bosses because I didn't want to do that, but there's these particular like giant crabs you face in a certain area that basically have the guardian laser from the Guardians from Breath of the Wild. It's like, and then and they can grab you and then fire that laser at you. Unfortunately, I didn't even think about sintil after the fact that there's probably a way to parry it, just like there is for the Guardian lasers in Breath of the Wild. But anyway, so since I needed to get the achievement anyway, I decided, okay, I'm going to give him a gun and shoot them. It was so satisfying. Mostly because what mostly made it satisfying is the problem is that there's one or two spots in this particular area where you have like 4 of them pop up and they respawn. And so if you don't take out all of them in one go, each time you respawn, when you come back, they're all going to be there again. And so it just, I killed the majority of them just normally. But after a while, I was just like, I'm tired of dealing with you guys. I'm just going to shoot you. And so gave Krill a gun. He had a gun on his back. Boom. Actually has a gunshot sound. It's like a 9mm or a 45 or something.
Oh man.
And then after I took them out, took the gun off and went back to the normal difficulty, but yeah. So fantastic
that's
game.
awesome.
But yeah, I definitely wouldn't tell people to use that normally because it's way too overpowered and it takes away the fun. I mean, even on the easiest difficulty, on story difficulty, which is what I set for my daughter, I didn't give her the gun because I was like, I want you to actually enjoy the game and play it normally. And if you just have the gun, that just makes it way too easy. That's the game journalist mode. We don't do game journalist mode in this household. I'm sorry, no. I mean, she wouldn't have known anyway, but yeah. All right, dissuasions.
Oh yeah, so my dissuasion is going to be don't play Ghost Song. And this is a game that I only thought about this because I saw that it was on sale, and this is a game that I really wanted to enjoy. It was sort of like a Metroidvania. And it is like that. It's a Metroidvania with a Souls-like, but it feels like it can't decide if it wants to be gameplay-wise a Metroid game or a Souls game, and because of that, it makes the gameplay unfun. And I just really couldn't get around that because it felt like it should be. It felt like it had to be. It was more difficult or tedious than it needed to be. And most of the characters I really didn't like. Like there were very few. There was one that really felt like he came out of a Souls game. Like he felt like the Solaire of the game, essentially, just because of how eccentric he is. And I really liked that guy. But everyone else, I just really didn't like at all. And I was just like, it was a disappointment for me, which I feel like is worse than playing a bad game. Is just when you play a disappointing game because you want it to be better and it's not,
Yeah.
it doesn't meet your expectations. That's what this game was. So I really cannot recommend this game. And in fact, I'm going to tell you to not play this game because it's just not a good Metroid game, and it falls flat in sort of in the Souls-like mechanics as well. So don't play Ghost Song.
All right. Yeah, when you talk about that, that just makes me think of I Am Setsuna, which was a game that was inspired heavily by Chrono Trigger, and it was one of the launch games on the Switch, and it was something that I was really interested in playing because I love Chrono Trigger. And, you know, I like the art style and everything. The music seemed like it was going to be pretty good. It was good. But I didn't like the game at all. I really just didn't like it. I felt like it was such a waste of time. It was just so mediocre on so many levels. And I mean, of course, part of the problem is, yes, I was comparing it to Chrono Trigger because it was heavily inspired by Chrono Trigger, but it just wasn't any good. I didn't like it. And yeah, it was very disappointing, especially having spent $40 on it. I was like, oh, that was a waste of money. But I mean, early days of the Switch, there were not many games available, and so it was like very slim pickings at that point. I mean, now you got hundreds of amazing games on the Switch, first and third party and indies, and just like you have such a huge treasure trove of games available. But back then, back in early 2017, whew, those streets were just
the dark
barren
ages.
and rough. Yeah. So, yeah. All right. My dissuasion is do not buy Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition on PC. Because basically, from what I can tell, they charge you, I think it's $40 for an upgrade. It's not much of an upgrade. They have mods added to the game, but you basically have to, it's like $20 a mod. And it's like, I mean, getting the Anniversary Edition on console makes more sense because you are getting a legitimate upgrade from the 30 FPS that it was on console before. And of course, the Switch never got the original Fallout 4, whereas Switch 2 does have it. But on PC, it's like, we didn't have those frame rate issues because they fixed the game a long time ago, and so the game runs better. I mean, already runs well, and there's just really no benefit whatsoever to getting the Anniversary Edition. Especially because there's probably thousands of free mods that you can download. So, just don't get it on PC. It's not going to be worth it.
Yeah, and isn't that kind of like with what's it called? Skyrim Special Edition, where like there wasn't really too much of a point in getting that version on PC when you could just play the original version, or I guess the legendary version, as opposed to like the newer modern one, which really just added the Bethesda mod store essentially.
Right. Yeah. Yep. That is all I have. So, where can people find you?
They can find me on my channel. I am Xeracon. That's IAMXERACON. So youtube.com/@IamXeracon. I don't think I'll be finishing it up tonight. So Thursday morning, I will have the full Expedition 33 review available.
Sweet.
Finally. Only took 33 years, but hey, at least I'll put it out before I have to go Maj, so we've got that there. And I've got my other channel, Justin's Bible Blog. That's at Justin's Bible Blog. I put out a video this morning. I think this morning. Just this one's different than my other videos. This one's more so just like my own personal testimony about how God can guide us in our lives, and we don't even know it until way later. And then we look back and see, wow, God, you did all this, and I didn't even realize that. So that's what I've got there. Not certain what the next video will be, but I will put that out once I have a new idea. But yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, looking forward to seeing your review. Hopefully it'll actually show up in my feed, because half the time well, more than half the time your videos don't show up in my feed. I kept forgetting to check your Bible blog channel, and I actually did have the one you posted this morning show up on my feed, so I added it to my downloads, and now I just need to go back, and I think that there was one or two that I missed. But I also have like a big queue of stuff to listen to, so I'm trying to get through a bunch of stuff, but I think that one's right now at the top because I think that was the last one I downloaded, so it should be at the very top. You can find me on my YouTube gaming channel at TheFrozenGamer87. Nothing new has gone up, and I don't know when the next time is I'll have something, but there is that 24-hour live stream I did, broken up into 3 parts. Thankfully, this was the one time that I didn't have to worry about restarting my computer or lose my connection or anything during the stream, which was great. So that all worked out well, but yeah, nothing else new at the moment. I don't really know when I'm going to have time to get to some of these things. I have a busy weekend ahead. We're having a family from our previous church over for dinner on Saturday with 6 kids. So, I mean, you know, we've hosted, you know, all of my family before, so it's usually 20 people in the house. This time it'll, you know, with their family of 8, that would put us at 13 people. Or, yeah, 13 people. So, not too bad. But there's that, and then I'll probably have to do some other stuff around the house. If I have time on Saturday, I'm going to try to get that Ethernet cable that I had to lay for before my stream actually pinned to the wall. So basically just taking the old Ethernet cable out and putting the new one in those slots and seeing if I can get that lined up so that it's not loose across the floor like it is right now. Thankfully, I put it down to where it hasn't been a trip hazard, but it just looks tacky, and I want to get it looking neater so that it can actually be useful. Or, well, so that it's not in the middle of the floor, basically. But yeah. So yeah. Anyway, going back to channels, there is the YouTube channel and Rumble channels for the podcast. YouTube, it's at the Orange Box Podcast. On Rumble, it's not a custom URL, but you can still find it there. The video version of the podcast goes live every Friday at 7 a.m. Central Time, barring any technical issues. Then there's the audio-only version of the podcast, which goes live at 12 a.m. Central Time every Friday, barring any technical issues. And that goes up on all major audio podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon Music, and others that aren't coming to mind off the top of my head, but you should easily be able to find it. So that is another source if you don't care about seeing gameplay clips or anything else and you just want to listen to the sound of our beautiful voices. And the music in the background, which, you know, that's half why I listen to it, is for the music in the background. It's like, yes, video game music. Good stuff. Okay. And then I do have a YouTube cooking channel, Not Authentic But Delicious. That's YouTube at NABD Cooking. Hasn't been anything new in quite a while on there. I don't know if I'm going to have time to film anything. Honestly, the biggest issue I have is just the amount of time it takes to film. The editing really doesn't take that long overall. I mean, it might take me 3 to 4 hours at the most, but it's really just the amount of time it takes to get the video aspect done in the first place. And having to have a clean kitchen and then having enough time to do that, especially like when everybody's hungry and I'm trying to get the food prepared while everybody's hungry. So, yeah, I don't know when there's going to be anything new on there. We'll just kind of see what happens in the future. Yeah. So that's everything. All right. Last chance. Any final thoughts?
No, sir.
All right. Well, I am the Frozen Gamer 87. That is I am Zeracon. We are the Orange Box Podcast. And until next time, make yourself some tacos. Orange Box Podcast out.